reduce this trade inequity between China and the United States. Can you talk about the current state of that relationship and the situation?
Sure. At the Mar-a-Lago summit back in the spring, President Xi and President Trump began to develop a very good personal relationship, and that's been fostered since then. They speak on the phone quite often, and they're by and large relatively cordial conversation. So at the human level, there's a much better rapport than the prior administration had with the Chinese leadership. We then have had two sessions at the Strategic and Economic Dialogue with the Chinese. One was at Mar-a-Lago itself, the other was a couple of weeks ago in Washington. And now we'll be continuing that in Beijing in a few weeks. Beijing is a very important part of the president's trip. So I was in Beijing and Hong Kong, for that matter, in Bangkok and Laos a couple of weeks ago, kind of getting ready for the president's trip. And I think there will be some decent deliverables come out of the Beijing meeting. Deliverables, as you remember, after Mar-a-Lago, we got a few things. We got cattle being shipped to China. We got some biotech things granted. We got some licenses granted for investment banking. We got a bunch of things going, some work on the electronic payment processing. We hope to get more of those kinds of issues as well. But some of the issues between China and the U.S. are inherently very complex and will take a little time to resolve. The issues of intellectual property right, the issues of forced localization, the issues of forced technology transfers, those are very big, very important issues that we're going to take a little time to resolve.
And there's a feeling that among the business community that the rules and standards of doing business in China are different than the rules that we apply for Chinese companies doing business in America. Is there a chance for that to be equalized in these negotiations?
Well, we hope so. And it's not just China. A lot of countries do not have a level playing field. And when you really think about it, the only country that comes close to being a free trader is the United States. China, Europe, Japan, Korea, all these others, they talk about free trade, but in fact they practice highly protectionist behavior, including what happens to companies on the ground. So those are serious issues. They're issues we're trying very hard to deal with, and they go against some of the fundamental philosophies. If you've read China's 2025 plan, basically saying they're seeking self-sufficiency in all the major areas of technological improvement by 2025, as opposed to extreme dependence on imported talent, imported intellectual property, and imported products from the West. So it runs directly contrary to that stated national goal. What we don't know is now that President Xi has been elevated to practically Mao-type status, the question is, will that make it easier to deal with him now that he's consolidated power, or will it make it more difficult? I'll tell you better after the November visit.